Hi, this is Dr. Doreen Downing. Welcome to the Mindset Social Author Series, where we in our group Mindset Social get to introduce an author. And that is somebody I get to say hello to today, Denise. Zack, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Where are you located, by the way?
I'm in Florida, and thank you so much for having me on today. Greatly appreciate it. I am in the on the south, probably mid Florida on the East Coast.
Uh-huh. Yeah, well, I'm on the opposite coast, West Coast
Okay.
near San Francisco. So, for folks who are tuning in today, I am opening up the conversation about Denise and herself as an author, some books she's written, and the one that I'm most interested in today, but she's written three, is Ripple Effect: Change Your Mind, Change Your Life.
Yes, I that was my first book and the one that is probably most near and dear to my heart for sure.
Uh, Well, I have to say that there is something similar about how we must frame things because my work is find your voice, change your life, right?
Ah, yeah,
So, in a
absolutely.
way, there's a similar thrust, I think, in us
Mm.
being interested in people changing their lives and doing it in a way that we feel like, at least I feel like I have, using mindfulness as I don't want to call it a tool. I want to call it a way
Strategy. Yeah.
way
So
of being. Yeah.
agreed.
Well,
Well,
you.
I was a therapist for 20 years, so I think that we're in the same mindset in terms of understanding that there's so much more that's going on when someone reacts a certain way or is triggered or acts unskillfully or acts out of what is kind of undermining their best intention. And so when I was working at the university and working with students, I started to see some patterns of lack of ability to kind of take that step back and observe what's going on and notice, what am I doing right now? How am I getting triggered? What is getting in my way? And I wanted to teach people how to do that because I was finding the benefits of doing it through the mindfulness that I was teaching because I was going through a yoga teacher certification training at that time. And I thought, okay, if this is working for me, then I know that I could teach it to other people.
Yeah. Well, I love the questions you just asked because it points to how important being curious about ourselves happens to be. If we don't know, it's that whole thing of know thyself, and
Yeah.
that's what you pointed to. Well, you wrote
Yeah.
bio, so I'm going to jump over to that and
Sure.
read a little bit about what you provided here so people instantly get who you are. Denise Zack is an author, consultant, life coach, mindfulness expert. Oh, I like expert, and yoga instructor with 30 plus years of experience. She's dedicated her life to helping individuals and businesses navigate stress, pressure, and how to elevate their performance through mindful techniques. And you go on. I think I am going to go ahead and read some of this because I think it's important about your background. Through her exploration and practice of neuroscience techniques, she discovered the detrimental impact of repetitive negative thought patterns and reactive thinking on emotional well being, decision making, and overall success in life. In response, she developed a mindful life coaching approach to break these cycles and promote cognitive and emotional balance, focus, and reduce stress. And this is about your coaching model rooted in these mindful practices, empowers clients to understand their beliefs, thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. And by providing tools to replace triggered reactions with healthier responses, she guides individuals towards greater insights, awareness, and emotional balance. We can go on, but I think that that gives the audience a good chunk of you. And now we get to highlight what else it is that you want to say about It sounds like you already started about how you were learning something that was useful for you. And what was going on? Just a little bit of pre you discovering mindfulness. What was
Yeah.
going on that led you to believe that you needed something more for yourself?
Excuse me, I'm still getting over a cold, so I'm having a little coughing tickle right now. Sorry.
If you want, if you have some water, I've got my water.
I was going to bring it in and I forgot.
Hmm.
Sorry. Apologies. Um, it's interesting because around the time that I was signed up to start my yoga teacher training, my husband was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer, and it had metastasized to his liver. He had about a 1% chance of survival, and we had 2 young children. I was working full time as a therapist, had to keep all of our life in order, and his focus was to go to treatment and get better. My job was to kind of circle around and take care of everything else that was going on in our lives. And when I would go to the yoga training on the weekends, I would come home and notice that I felt calm, centered,
Uh-huh.
and okay. And I got really curious about what was going on in my brain when that was happening. And I wanted to know what happened while I was at yoga because prior to walking in on that Friday afternoon, I knew that I felt stressed, I felt worried, I felt concerned about the future, so many different racing thoughts going through my mind. And by the time I left, I felt better. So I started diving into what happens in the brain when you meditate, when you practice yoga, when you do any sort of mindful activity. And what I learned is that there are different structures in the brain. And I'm not a brain expert by any means, but I really took an interest in the different structures of the brain that are activated when we're stressed, when we're overwhelmed, versus those that are activated when we're in our wise mind and when we are making the best decisions for ourselves. And I found that when you practice yoga, you activate the prefrontal cortex, which is located in the front of your brain. And it has a vagus nerve in the very center, which is our longest cranial nerve that goes all the way down into our belly, which is responsible for rest and digest. And when we activate the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for logical thinking, good, better, and best decision making, being analytical, taking your time, patience, that is what's activated when we're practicing meditation, when we're practicing mindfulness. And what doesn't get activated or what quiets down is the amygdala. And so if you flip your lid in the middle of your brain, kind of back here a little bit, is your midbrain. It's the part of the brain that's responsible for fight, flight, or freeze, for emotional responses and reactivity. And so when you're stressed, your prefrontal cortex can go offline and stop working, which is why we don't make really good decisions when we're under a lot of stress. And so I thought, wow, that's amazing. If I can help students on this campus, faculty and staff on this campus, because I was working at a university at the time, if I can help them activate the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for all of these amazing things, it can help them do better in school. It can help them make better decisions. It can help them feel more centered, feel more grounded. And so that's what I did. I kept doing the yoga teacher training. I kept applying it to my life. My husband and I would meditate together. And I developed this 8-week curriculum, which I turned into this book
Oh,
as a result.
oh. Well, that's beautifully worded. And there's a book by Perlman, I think, around Rewire the Anxious Brain. And I think you just explained it around how the front part of the brain and I like the way you flapped your hand,
You flip,
the back,
flip your lid.
yeah,
Yeah.
your lid,
Yeah.
the back part of your brain have neural networks that are different. And so that the way that you're saying is increase these in front is a way to um, stimulate. I never thought that that vagal nerve was like the way you just did it. So I just learned something about it coming down in the and that
Into the belly.
yes
And it crosses and it touches so many organs on the way down.
heart.
heart, lungs, liver,
Uh-huh.
stomach.
Uh-huh.
So it is a very important feature in terms of self-regulating for sure. And that's the simple piece of it. That's the simple, if you activate the prefrontal cortex, you can activate the vagus nerve and you can feel more calm and relaxed. But the bigger piece for me around mindfulness is really that ability to take the step back from yourself and observe what you're doing and then try to understand. Why am I doing that? What belief system do I have that I've generated over the course of my lifetime through my experiences, education, socioeconomic status, culture, religion, all of it? What is the belief system that I've developed as a result of that contributes to my day-to-day decisions, my day-to-day reactions, my day-to-day insecurities, faults, whatever it is, and strengths? And then if there's something that's getting in the way because knowledge isn't enough, how do I apply mindfulness now to actually create that change and make it long lasting so that you start to change the structure, create new neural pathways
Yeah.
in the brain as a result of making new choices?
That's pretty profound, isn't it?
I find the work very profound when I'm working with my clients and they're able to make that determination and then have that success where they come back and tell me, I had a meeting with my boss, and I know that my boss triggers me the way that my father used to trigger me because he has similar features in how he operates and how he communicates. And I was able to prepare myself before the meeting and decide how I wanted to react even before I went in because I knew that I would get triggered by him at some point. And I was able to make a different decision and maintain my composure and maintain my regulation so that I don't get undermined in the workplace where that has nothing to do with family, but has everything to do with how your brain is structured.
Yeah, and what gets triggered, but knowing how you get triggered, then you can make some choices, but you have to be what we call mindful. You have to notice. I have a similar situation. I have a storybook stepmother, and there's a certain look she has, dark hair, and I mean, not beautiful dark hair like you have right now, but
Yeah.
there's a quality. She has kind of an angular, and it's kind of sharp, a sharpness that,
Yeah.
and some people have a personality that has more edgy to them,
Mm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
so when I used to get around people who had that edginess and looked like her in some ways, I found myself doing exactly what you're talking about with your client. And then learning that first is like, I'm having a reaction. Oh,
Right.
and I love that you went curiosity. Oh, what is this about? I mean, I
Right.
didn't know until I made the connection that it was triggering some older experience that I had been having as a younger person. And
Yeah.
then you go further in, okay, so I see a connection there. I see how come I have the understanding, I have the insight. Now what? Right?
Mm-hmm.
That
Right.
to me is what you just explained. Is it's not just going, aha. There's something
Right.
about
Right. Now I'm better. Right.
yeah, yeah, there's something in between that insight and what you're able to do when you come
Right.
into contact with that trigger. So that moment, I think, if say just a little bit more about because I have my own what I did, but
Yeah.
just in order of helping people who are listening today, if they're trying to say, okay, I understand that I react because that's how my father or mother or stepmother, or brother, sister treated me.
Yeah.
Let's go there, right there.
Absolutely. So when you have negative experiences or traumatic experiences or even just intense experiences or regular enough experiences that may not seem intense, but the accumulation of them over time creates a certain feeling or belief system within your brain, then that pattern stays with you. And so if, let's give an example, if someone was attacked by a dog as a child, your brain is going to want to remember that because if that dog comes around again, we don't want you to have to relearn that this is an aggressive dog. We want your brain is going to say, there's that aggressive dog, you're going to get triggered.
Mhm.
Now, if it were just that aggressive dog, then it would be great. But what happens is in the amygdala, which has the reaction, right next to the amygdala is a structure called the hippocampus, which is designed to hold on to our long-term memory, especially negative ones. And it is right next to the amygdala, which is the fire alarm of the brain. So why do you think those two structures are so close together? What I understand is that the amygdala is sifting through all of our memories so that if that dog comes around again, immediately the fire alarm is going to go off. When the amygdala goes off, it sends stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, all of the stress hormones into our system to protect us.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. The amygdala is so split second that it gets things wrong.
Ah,
It doesn't care if it's the same dog. It could be a dog that looks like it. It doesn't matter if it's actually your mom or your mother-in-law. If it just looks enough like
yes.
her, your amygdala is going to say, ooh, danger. This is going to come at you. You need to have a reaction. And so mindfulness is knowing what that pattern is,
Yes.
knowing that it's there,
Yeah.
and then the minute you start to get triggered before that hippocampus talks to the amygdala and sends off the chain reaction that is automatic and you will not be able to pull back. It has to go through. You might be able to slow it, you might be able to shorten it a bit. But what we want to do is insert mindfulness in between the stimuli and the amygdala, the trigger.
Yeah.
And that's where the power comes in. That's where agency over your environment, over your regulation comes in. And that's what I love to teach people.
Uh-huh. I I wanna go I wanted to ask one more question, but
Yeah.
I wanna give an example also about it doesn't have to be in a like what you just mentioned with the dog, because one of my clients who has because my expertise is speaking anxiety, and
Hmm.
she came to me because of always standing in front of an audience and feeling like the audience was gonna pounce on her.
Mm,
Guess what? We discovered way back when she went to school, she had to go through a territory where there was a vicious dog. The vicious dog got out one day when she was describing it, and she said, "And he pounced on me."
mm.
Denise, all that it was the same word.
That's it. Right. And that's the beauty of it when you hear people using the same language and you can repeat it back to them. It doesn't have to be the same thing. The amygdala is sloppy. It just needs to be fast to protect you. It doesn't care if it gets it right. It would prefer it be immediate so that you can prevent a dangerous thing flying at you. It doesn't care whether it's a feather or a baseball.
Uh-huh.
You're going to flinch anyway and
Flinch.
then figure out later what it is.
Okay, so now let's go back to that moment where you have the insight and you've made the connection and you
Yeah.
understand what you said between the amygdala and the
The
hippocampus.
hippocampus. Hmm.
So then what's next? How do you
So it's a strategy, and so that you can name a couple of different strategies. If you know when you get triggered, you can prepare yourself prior to going into that circumstance. If you know it's a boss, it's a particular person, it's a situation, claustrophobia, whatever it is, you can say to yourself, "Okay, I'm going in there. I know what's likely going to happen, and here's how I want to respond. I'm going to prepare myself now so that when I get into that moment." I'll recognize it immediately, tell myself this is old stuff, this is an old pattern, and here's how I choose to react in this moment. Now, that can work beautifully, and I've had many successes with clients doing that. Sometimes you cannot prepare, though, and these circumstances, these incidents, events just happen. Our reactions just happen. And so it is a learning process of trying to catch yourself as early as possible in that moment. Right when the hair on the back of your neck starts to stand up and you know that you're having a reaction, you say, "Oh, I'm noticing a part of me is feeling a certain way right now." And not saying I'm noticing I'm angry, I'm anxious, because then that becomes all of you. I'm noticing a part of me is anxious. The amygdala is so tiny. We have so much more in our brain, but when that part goes off, the rest of the brain just completely shuts down. And what I try to do is teach people to reactivate that part of the brain. The way to do it is through mindfulness. It's by activating your prefrontal cortex by observing yourself in that moment. It's okay, well, I'm noticing a part of me is starting to get agitated. let me take a few deep breaths. Let me just become aware of my surroundings, ground myself, see if I can notice what is going on in this moment that might be contributing to how I feel. And then usually there's a moment where they say, oh, I know that's it right there. Let me take some deep breaths, get connected. And is that person really trying to upset me? Am I actually in danger? Is this an old pattern that is rearing its ugly head again? Am I aware that I have options instead of reacting negatively? So you stop, you breathe and get centered, and then you appraise the situation. And I don't want anyone appraising the situation unless they've stopped and gotten centered. Because when you stop and breathe and connect with your body, that's when you activate the prefrontal cortex. Before that, your amygdala is in charge, and you're not going to come up with a logical response to a logical question. Did you ever ask someone when they're upset, how they're going to manage things? They're usually like, I'm just going to run away, I'm going to move and sell everything. I can't take it anymore. There's not usually a logical response that comes when someone's super upset. But if you can ground yourself and activate that prefrontal cortex, then you activate the logical thinking. And then you're able to observe. And it takes a while to kind of get the routine down because you have to practice it. I do it really quickly now because I've been doing it for, 15 years now. But um but once you do that, then you're able to say, okay, it's an old pattern. I got triggered by this person because of this. And how do I want to respond to this? What's the most skillful thing I can do? How can I be intentional? How can I be even loving in this moment, even if someone's rude to you? How can I be loving, be empathic in this moment, and know that they probably have struggles that have absolutely nothing to do with me?
Yes.
And
Well, that speaks to one of the techniques I used with this, my story about my stepmother is that when this new person some of the things that you already mentioned about the how to in terms of strategies, that this is not my stepmother, and
mm,
well, then it's like, well, who is this person? Where is their heart? Where, if I can look into their eyes, what do I see? And so
mm,
it is about coming into this new now moment with this new person in front of me and being open to discovering what do I like about them? What's beautiful about them? And where's their
right.
gift or where's their
Compassion.
heart? What was the word?
Compassion.
Yes, yeah, you said empathy, so, yeah. Well,
Awesome.
we're just moving right along here today, but it's getting close to time to wrap up, darn it. What would you like to say about your work? I mean, you've been talking about a lot of the details today, but there seems to be, maybe some message that's coming through, kind of maybe I don't know.
Yeah, I think whether it's a personal level or on a business level, you can always create change. And mindfulness is a soft skill, which they call it a soft skill in business. But it is in my opinion, it's a critical skill. It is part of emotional intelligence that is a hugely important piece and element to have in the work that you have in your life personally to have. And if you have the ability to become mindful, to kind of check what's going on, the 6 inches in between our ears, which causes 99% of our distress, you can create any change that you want. You can elevate your performance, you can improve your relationships, elevate your happiness. And I love doing that work with people. I love helping people get to that place, whether it's an individual who's struggling, whether it's a team, whether it's a business that's going through a change. I believe that mindfulness is an important and critical piece of the process of creating change in one's life, business, or career.
Oh, well, that's really well, described, and the message that you have feels like it's so, well, that's how you started. It is life-changing, and so if you're looking to change your life, it looks like you, Denise, has some strategies, and not only what I felt today was your generosity, your passion, your way of being a safe guide
Mm,
for others. That's, what
thank you.
resonates to me
Thank you.
is your heart and your eagerness to just show up.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I love the work. I love helping people, and I'm always ready to dive in. And I greatly appreciate you having me on today and for this interview. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.